Hello, everyone. Let's get started on our Fresh Service Tips and Tricks webinar. We're going to be covering IT asset management, basic to advanced skill sets. And what we're going to cover today are three main areas. We're going to start with the physical management, the discovery, populating the CMDB, and tying IT service management and IT asset management together. Now, we do have a lot of organizations on this call and individuals on this call that may already be doing the physical asset management, might already have a CMDB populated. So the next round of tips we'll be going into are to talk about financial management, talking about how you can manage the purchase orders, the contracts, and all that information within the fresh service solution. And finally, we'll go to a third level of IT asset management maturity and talk about risk management, the software license management, the SaaS management, subscription licensing. I am your host, David Apple. I've worked in IT service management industry for over 12 years. I've been with Flycast Partners more than half that time in many different operational and customer facing roles. Currently, I'm working as a customer advocate and in our marketing department, really focusing on bringing knowledge, content, and material to our customer base. The real star of the show is going to be our subject matter expert, Bobby McCullough. Bobby has over 25 years of IT experience, and he specialized not only in the service management aspects, but very specifically in asset and financial management as well. Throughout Bobby's career, he's worked for many organizations, helping implement these strategies and best practices throughout different industries like healthcare, finance, different federal and state agencies, which gives an extra level of confidence. Uh, Bobby knows really those extra layers of compliance to those specific industries. So, welcome, Bobby. Before we get into the tips and tricks piece, I'd like to go over the a little bit more about who we are at Flycast Partners for those who might not be aware. We've been around for over 10 years and we work with over 1,600 customers in North America, really ranging in all types of industries and all types of sizes and different levels of IT maturity. And throughout the years, we've helped our customers, our organizations, evaluate, implement the best IT service management solution for them, really with a focus of what solutions provide the best value for your organization, keeping costs low while maintaining those high levels of automation so that you can actually see positive business outcomes. In addition to having expertise in over seven different ITSM solutions on the market, we also have the ability to come in and help design your ITIL processes, help your organization streamline and create more value, as well as provide ITIL education for your organizations. We are a veteran-owned small business, corporate out of St. Petersburg, Florida. However, we do have most of our employees out in the field, working remote throughout North America. And before we dive into the Fresh Service product and talk about asset management there, I'd like to just boast a little bit more about our relationship with Freshworks and the organization. We earlier this year were recognized by Freshworks as the North American Most Valued Partner of the Year, as well as the Global ITSM Strategic Partner of the Year. It's been a great ride since we signed up with Freshworks just a few years ago when we were on the search for which solutions we found in the market provide really the best value. And a big key component of that is the flexibility and the scalability of the fresh service solution. I know we have some organizations on today that are in the starting out with the product. And then we have some of our more mature clients who are taking advantage of a lot of the automation and the special features and capabilities that the product has that can really scale to the large enterprise. Just before we kind of dig into this, what percentage of clients do you feel are taking full advantage of the asset management solution within the product?
Oh, it's very small. It's very small. We've got lots of customers that it's a lot of this begins as aspirational, and then now the more mature organizations are the ones that will have all three levels of this. But the vast majority of the customers, it's aspirational for them.
And so today you're going to be taking us through the different levels of maturity an organization might go through in this. So tell us a little bit about how an organization who's not really leveraging the asset management tool at all, how they would get started and some of the areas you would point them to.
So that's a great question. So Freshservice makes that very, very easy. Freshservice comes with an agent and a probe that allows you to discover that IP environment. We've also got an API and connectors, so we can connect to other endpoint or third-party discovery solutions to bring those devices in. But then you've also got the ability to import non-IT based or IP based devices, things that don't have an IP address that you're not going to be able to discover, things like monitors, mice, keyboards, or for the facilities team, a fire extinguisher. All of those type of things you're able to bring into this CMDB. And it's an important first step because organizations, a lot of times without the CMDB, they really don't have the context around the request that's coming in. And so having the CMDB provides that context to the service desk. It allows you to bring together that human intelligence and your digital intelligence and then make all of that information available over on the service desk side. Without that information, troubleshooting remotely can be time consuming and difficult. And it's just a matter of deploying that agent and probe. Having that available now gives you a complete understanding of that affected device's attributes. Easy to know its impact in your organization, but what operating system is it on? How much memory does it have? How much free drive space does it have? All of that type of information. That's key to being able to really remotely troubleshoot and support customers. So without a CMDB, the main purpose of the CMDB is it's the single source of truth for assets in an organization. Without that CMDB, you're going to have the network team is going to have a spreadsheet of their network devices just so they can keep up with it. Your laptop team, your hardware team, they're going to have spreadsheets of their devices as well. And then the end of the year is coming up, and the CIO wants some reports about those devices. That's very difficult. Everybody has to create their own reports. There's no single source of truth for all of those assets, and that's what the CMB does. It brings all of those otherwise disparate assets together, gives you the ability to report on those as a group so that when that request comes from the CIO, you can produce that in minutes rather than it taking hours and multiple people to do it.
Bobby, so not just leveraging the ability to have that information handy to provide up to leadership, but also the end user experience, which is a tips and tricks webinar we did a couple months ago, when we talk about how the end user experiences the services IT provides. If I'm an end user and I have an issue, I should expect IT to know what IT assets I have, what
Yes.
software I have, what other devices I'm connected to when they're troubleshooting any type of issues. So that's another point. Just kind of
Oh, yeah.
piggybacking off our last webinar.
You can't expect every customer that calls with an issue or reports an issue that if you ask them back, can you tell me what version you're on, what version of Windows you're on, or whatever? You can't. There's no guarantee that they're going to know where to go find that. And so you're exactly right. With varying skill and knowledge levels of your customers, the more information that you can have at your fingertips as a agent at the service desk, it's very, very helpful. Why don't we take a look at this in the tool for just a second? We'll take a look at how assets are presented in the tool. So here is a laptop. This is actually my laptop here. And so this allows us again to bring together human intelligence as well as digital intelligence. Human intelligence is what is it? When did we buy it? What did we pay for it? Who did we assign it to and where? But then digital intelligence comes in by what operating system and version. Who was the last person to log in? That's important. You want to know if the last person to log in matches who you've assigned it to. When that differs, you might have had someone repurpose a device without reporting it. But you're going to have all of that information right there at your fingertips, not just the OS. You're also going to be able to understand if it's a hardware device, the components that make up that device, as well as the software that's installed on that device. And then finally, for those critical key devices, CI services, you're going to be able to develop relationships. And now this is an example of my laptop, but if we think of this as maybe your organization's website, you've got a web server, maybe a database server and a process server. Now all of this information is available to the service desk. So when I'm in a ticket in the system, we'll bring this back up real quick. When I'm in a ticket, I've got the ability to relate my assets to that ticket. I can see some of that information right there, but the main thing is I've got a link to go right out to that device and get all of that information if I need it.
Bobby, this is great. I mean, you've been around longer than I have, but even in my short stint in the ITSM world, in the past, it was always organizations would have a ticketing system, and then they would need to integrate to another discovery and asset tool to then maybe pull in that information into the ticketing system, or agents would have to jump from their ticketing system to look at that asset information or that information on a spreadsheet. And the fact that this is all done in the same console with the same solution is just that added benefit to the technicians and the operators trying to help out work on a ticket.
Well, and it goes beyond the day-to-day benefit, to the agents at the service desk, because you're able to get reporting out of the system like this. If you've got a disparate system, then you've got multiple people that are tracking this information. You got multiple people that are going to be able to produce their piece of this. But getting the single view of this is very, very difficult unless you've got a CMDB. And you can see here that this out-of-the-box report, it just sort of gives you maybe a Rubik's Cube view of your assets. You can twist and turn it. You can look at your assets by product. I can look at them by vendor, by impact, high, medium, and low, by location, by how we procured it. So there's tons of options here just on this out-of-the-box analytic, but very, very important. A huge benefit from a CMDB is the ability to generate these type of reports. Let's talk now about the next maturity level. So you've got a CMDB, you've centralized that data, you've got that single pane of glass, and that really asset management is really sort of two sides of the same coin. There's a physical side and there's a financial side. And the physical side is, what is it? Where is it located? Who's responsible for it? What are its attributes? That's all the CMDB. But financial management sort of takes that to the next level. Without that financial side of the equation, you're missing that on the service desk side. How important is this a device that we should replace? We're having a problem with it. Should we replace it? How do we know if we should replace it? Well, that all is determined by your purchase cost, its current value, its end of life date, all of those type of things that come along with managing both the purchase orders and contracts associated with your assets. Without this type of information, decision making around critical infrastructure is hindered. If a CIO or a manager needs to make some type of decision, there's information about that infrastructure that he needs to know. And where does he go to get that? Well, maybe that's Bill over in infrastructure. Maybe that's Sue over in hardware. Maybe I meet a little bit from both of those. It really just makes that decision making more difficult. If you've got a single system where a manager or a CIO can come in and understand all the financial aspects of an asset easily and quickly. It makes decision making much easier around that infrastructure. Finally, as we talked about before, lack of visibility or financial reporting. You've got this data separated out. Maybe you've got the CMDB going, but your financial information is over in another system. Maybe you have access to that. Maybe you have to call someone over there to get a report or whatever. Having all of this information in the Freshservice system gives you a single pane of glass where you can get all of this information at your fingertips.
And this is perfect, Bobby, for organizations that expand service management outside of the IT department, and when you start leveraging this information for not only organizations to use from a ticketing perspective, but from an asset management perspective as well, because you have the HR group who is using certain types of software, and whose responsibility is to really own and understand the financial aspects of the different software per department. Well, it looks like it relies on IT to help provide that information, but then you need to give that information out easily to those siloed departments, human resources, marketing, right?
Yeah. And so this is an example of a purchase order in Freshservice. What you're saying is exactly correct. And even if you're not managing purchase orders through Freshservice, there's a huge benefit in integrating your financial system with Freshservice so that you can pull this information in. This allows your agents to get to this information quickly without having to go to another system, without having to ask someone else. You've got control over the purchase order. So this is sort of an out-of-the-box version of the purchase order, but you can add fields and things like that if there's something that you need to track. The purchase order, having it in the system will allow you to manage approvals for that purchase order right through the system. It makes it really easy to generate that PO. So maybe you have a service request come in and you recognize that you're out of stock on that device. So it's very easy to create a purchase order from that service request. And then that association is maintained so that I can go back and understand the history of how we arrived at that device. It began as this request for a new MacBook. You're going to be able to understand all the assets that were received in that purchase order. Now, purchase orders are really just a part of the financial equation. We've also got your contracts. And so you've got multiple types of contracts that you can design. Several are already available out of the box with default fields, but you can add your own fields to each of those contract types. And really, it's just a way for you to understand the attributes of that contract. Who is it with? Who's the approver? The big point is the date of expiry. And so most contracts are not open-ended. They have an end date, and you may want to be notified about the expiration of that contract. And so you've got the ability to configure that in the system. In this case, we're going to remind me 90 days before this contract expires, so that we can do whatever management is appropriate for this. Extend it, renew it, terminate it, whatever's appropriate. But it's not just a matter of keeping up with who the contract is with, when it expires. You're also able to understand which assets are covered by that contract as well. So again, it's just really kind of completing that financial equation from the purchase order and contract perspectives. But bringing that information together, again, even if you're not managing that, even if procurement happens out in another system, bringing that information in is going to allow you to have access to reports like this. This is an overview of our purchase orders. And again, that Rubik's Cube view, purchase orders by status, which ones need my attention, which ones can I look at that we've already resolved, by approval status, by department, where are those purchases coming from, by order date, by expected delivery date and by receive date. So helps you a little bit with receiving. You understand when that activity is occurring, when you might need to take some action regarding that. You've also got out of the box contracts overview, and again, Rubik's Cube view of that contract. Show me all my contracts by name, show me contracts by value, by status, expiring in 90 days. Again, Freshservice is bringing to your attention what needs your attention. Expiration timeline, so you understand exactly when multiple contracts are going to be expiring.
No, this is the great way to take the asset information to the next level and really start seeing business value and providing that overall summary to leadership, right, to the executive team, to get a much better understanding of how everything's been operating, what the cost is, and then having that in-depth single pane of glass on what it is. I know there's been times, in my past running a marketing department where I haven't been able to just pull all the license information. I go to IT and they say, well, shouldn't you have it? And so you're kind of bridging the gap and breaking down those silos by having this in a single repository where that's what IT can control. And like you mentioned, whether you're using different purchasing systems, to have the ability to just integrate that so that it's all right here in the same viewpoint, because some organizations are using different tools and systems to purchase their software because they're still siloed. As much as we love it not to be, there's still going to be different departments that go procure software through different means.
You're exactly right. We talked early on about how this is levels of maturity in asset management, and grabbing this financial information is really key to that next step beyond CMDB. Now you're beginning to get the whole picture. When you're doing CMDB, you're really only doing half the picture. Bringing in the financial side of that equation really expands that. And now it's more than just what, it's how that impacts your organization from a financial perspective. So let's talk about the next level in maturity. Let's talk a little bit about risk management. So anyone listening today that has been audited by one of your software vendors is familiar with this. You've got an audit risk from particular software titles. My wife's organization discovered that they were over allocated on Microsoft licenses, and as a result had to move to Google. And that was not a happy move for that organization. Now, had they had software risk management in place, they could have avoided that, because they would have had visibility into their license position, and so completely avoid that audit risk. Without this, you've got a lack of financial context around your software licensing. So, we talked about CMDB being the first step. The next step being the POs and contracts around those assets. How having that information to the service desk is important. This is that same information regarding software licensing. Having that financial context there around that at the service desk gives visibility into the license cost and utilization. I'm going to show you how we can take advantage of that. Where are organizations without this? Well, they've got a fragmented reporting around their software licensing. Maybe you've got a software team that handles certain applications, and then you've got OS team that handles operating systems, and it gets difficult to get a complete, concise view of that software estate. Having your software license management as a part of your asset management allows you to unify that reporting and really gives you the full breadth of visibility from the physical and financial side, extending all the way over into the software licensing. Does that make sense, David?
It does, and this is one of those areas when you get to this point as an organization where you can start really seeing a great return on investment, and you've already seen a good return on investment up until this point. but this is just like the icing on the cake to prevent those scenarios where you're over purchasing, to give IT the ability to quickly say, hey, look, we just want to reallocate a license because these licenses haven't been used in X amount of time from this department. Let's start an approval process to pull licenses from areas they're not being utilized, move them over to the new requesters. And so again, this is kind of the utopia state, but it's just remarkable because again, like I mentioned before, in the past, you would have to leverage multiple solutions to start gaining this information, and the fact you're able to do this all in one solution with Freshservice is pretty astonishing.
Yeah, it's again, it's part of that single pane of glass, so that your service desk and asset team have one location to go to answer any question that they might have about their work. Let's take a look at this through the system real quick. So here's our software page. Managing software in the system is going to give you access to insights. So you're going to be able to determine what titles you want to manage, which ones you want to ignore. Things like Google Chrome probably isn't anything that you're concerned about managing. So you're going to mark it as ignored, but titles like Office 365, Windows 11, Zoom, those are going to be things you want to manage. And so you're going to be able to get insights around those software titles, operational insights, compliance, and usage insights, all relative to those titles. So very important information that allows you to understand your license position for each of those titles. And if we drill into one here, let's go look at our Windows 11. So you're able to see right here, Freshservice brings to your attention what needs your attention. Right here, I've got an overview of my contract. What was its value and when does it expire? What's our utilization? So I can see here, I've got one install, but we've got 100 of these purchased. And so I've got two tabs here. I've got my installations and I've got my users. So what's the difference? The installation is where I have assigned it. Users are where we have discovered it. You want to make sure those agree. When those don't agree, that's when you're going to have something out of whack here with what you've purchased versus what you've installed. You're also going to have access to your contract that the software was purchased under, and be able to establish any relationships with that software. This is where you can assign it if it's this is a bad example for this, but if it's like a server grade software, you can link it to that server right here through the assignments. So very, very helpful from that perspective, but it really goes beyond that. So we've also got SaaS management, SaaS licenses. And so this is where we have the ability to pull in utilization data from this software title. And in this case, we're looking at a video conferencing tool. So we get utilization data around video conferencing, how many meetings in 30 days with more than 2 users and so on. One of the benefits of moving toward this maturity level is the amount of automation that's available in Freshservice that now you can start taking advantage of. Having this utilization data is key to then using, in this case, this is a workflow automator to allow us to analyze the utilization of our Zoom licenses. And we can notify a user that, hey, you haven't used Zoom in 6 months. We're going to reclaim your license. This is the email to inform you of it. And then take that reclaimed license and assign it to a new user, all automatically through the system. So again, it's a maturity level that you've got to bring in these other skill sets, other data sets into the system and bring it together. But once that's done, you then have the ability to take advantage of this deep type of automation that really can make your life much, much easier, rolling these out automatically in the system. Now, the last thing we talked about was reporting. Again, this is an out-of-the-box view of your software. And so here we can see that Rubik's Cube view, my software by status, by managed users, by source, by publisher, and then software category or major categories in the software. You have control over these reports. And so you've got all of that I've showed you. You have the ability to edit them. You don't need to be a data scientist to modify these. It's all really through a drag and drop interface. So very, very easy to make modifications here and make these reports your own, as well as schedule them and send this information out. So previously, what might have been a multiple days activity with multiple people, you're able to come in here and just schedule this out and have this sent to an email box as a PDF or whatever's appropriate, and have that happen automatically. So you're no longer gathering this information, compiling it, and then delivering it. It just happens automatically from your management of the system in the background.
Bobby, thanks so much for going in depth and showing not only some of the modules there, but that automation and that the workflow is just brilliant. Like I mentioned earlier, the reclaiming unused licenses, reallocating those, not only to save money from over purchasing, but to reduce the man hours and time
Exactly.
to put that process in place. That was definitely that extra level of eye opening. And we've here at Flycast Partners, there's been many times where we work with clients or we have organizations reach out to us that say, oh, we need to get our asset management in order because we're being audited, which is sadly the time it's a little too late. And then the best practice is if you haven't been audited in a while or haven't been audited at all, to start putting these practices in place proactively, and it will just make your life a lot easier when the software vendors start calling up to kind of look at what you have. And if you have these practices in place, it's a much easier, much less expensive process to go through.
At each level of maturity that we talked about, there are the core benefits, but those core benefits expand out into many, many other benefits, like the automation that we're able to take advantage of. Once you've got that information in there, then that automation is available and really able to reduce staff interactions whenever you're able to deploy something like that.
Right. The benefits just keep getting better and better. And so, well, no, I appreciate the tips, Bobby, and kind of walking through those different levels of maturity there. And I know just based on the list of signups and attendees on this webinar, I see a few clients we have that are utilizing Pro or the enterprise pieces of Freshservice, but there might be a lot of clients out there using the starter or the growth package, which really when you get into the growth package of Freshservice is where you can start leveraging the asset management modules. So I just want to talk a little bit about the different resources you have available to you from us here at Flycast Partners, being that leading ITSM partner for Freshworks and Implementer. We're putting out different tips and tricks, Freshservice blogs on various topics. We'll be sending those out via email. Y'all may have seen some of our emails or posts on LinkedIn for those, or been to our website. We also are posting videos like this. Will be up on our YouTube channel, along with some of those other tips and tricks blogs we've done in the past. And so our goal here is to really get the Freshservice community leveraging the tool much more so than you are today, to kind of give you that nudge and direction so that you're getting more value out of the tool. For some of the organizations who haven't worked with us or are looking for additional help, we are able to offer different degrees of health checks on how you're using the solution. Maybe you're just lacking resources, or maybe you went through an implementation on your own, or leveraging some resources in the past, but you're looking for that next level. We're able to come in and whether it be a brief health check or a more in-depth one. And we have a large arrangement of professional services with our Freshservice certified consultants that are available. So if you are looking for a much more mature engagement, or you're looking to roll out more ITIL processes, or start evaluating or putting a lot of this asset management into place, we have the resources and the consultants that can come in and help in that project. And then finally, we also offer remote administration services for clients who are, lacking the resources, or your Freshservice administrator just doesn't have the bandwidth to go in and make a lot of adjustments on forms. So we do have a team of certified administrators that you're able to leverage from us as well through the process. So following up on this webinar, if you have any questions, you can visit our website, flycastpartners.com. We'll put some links to some of these resources in the video when it comes up on our YouTube channel, and you can reach out to us to have just a quick conversation on how we're able to help get you to that next level. And if there's anything else we can do, we can at least point you in the right direction. So, Bobby, I want to thank you again for kind of going through these tips, giving us some good insight to that. Any parting words for the group that attended today?
Thanks for having me, David. The only thing that I would add to this is that the benefit of bringing in asset management at whatever level you're thinking about is going to provide benefits beyond what you realize. It's going to make your life easier, and really give you that single pane of glass. I can't stress enough how helpful that is, to have one place for your service desk team to come for any answer that they need.
You've shown that very well, and I really appreciate again the us digging into this topic, because again, it's like you mentioned, one of the better values you can gain once you get started, and then when you take it to the next level. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Bobby, for going through this, and I want to thank everyone that was able to attend today, and we appreciate you. Yeah, have a great day.